You were taught to seek acceptance, to win applause, to make yourself soft and accessible so the world wouldn't fear you. That's why the world forgets you. No one remembers the agreeable. No one shakes when the gentle walk in. Fear, earned fear, doesn't mean cruelty. It means the mind so sharp, so self-possessed, so immune to panic, that lesser minds hesitate, choose their words, and quietly recalculate when you enter. Machiavelli observed, "It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both." But he was not talking about empty intimidation. He spoke of the terror aroused by an intelligence that cannot be manipulated, a posture that cannot be disturbed, a mind that dominates chaos and turns uncertainty into advantage. This is not the fear born of violence or aggression. This is something far more profound and lasting. The fear of encountering a mind that operates by different rules, that sees what others miss, that remains calm while others panic, that acts with precision while others flail in confusion. Think of the moments when you've encountered such a presence. Perhaps in a heated meeting, someone sits quietly while others argue, then speaks once with devastating clarity that cuts through all the noise. Perhaps in a crisis, while everyone else spirals into anxiety, someone remains composed and begins taking decisive action. Perhaps in a negotiation, while one side pleads and argues, the other simply states their terms and waits. These moments reveal the difference between borrowed authority and genuine power. Borrowed authority depends on titles, positions, and external validation. It crumbles under pressure because it was never real to begin with. Genuine power emanates from an unshakable internal core that doesn't need external confirmation to know its own worth. The journey to this mind begins when you throw off childish notions of peace and authenticity. The world isn't gentle with openness, it preys on it. You are respected not for what you reveal, but what you conceal, master, and command. This revelation cuts against everything modern culture teaches about relationships and success. We're told that authenticity is the highest virtue, that vulnerability creates connection, that transparency builds trust. And while these may have their place in intimate personal relationships, they are catastrophic strategies for navigating a competitive world. Authenticity, when misunderstood, becomes oversharing. Vulnerability becomes an invitation for exploitation. Transparency becomes exposure of weaknesses that others will inevitably use against you. The person who tells everyone their problems, their fears, their insecurities, and their plans is not being authentic, they're being naive. True authenticity isn't about revealing everything. It's about being genuinely yourself without needing validation from others. It's about acting from your own values and judgment rather than performing for an audience. The difference is subtle but crucial. One makes you strong, the other makes you prey. The ordinary mind is reactive. It digests opinions, swallows noise, chews over slights, digests anxiety, regurgitates petty responses. It is owned by moods, headlines, gossip, groupthink. But the Machiavellian mind, it is hard, silent, internally governed. Consider how most people spend their mental energy. They wake up and immediately check their phones, allowing whatever random information appears to set the tone for their day. They scroll through social media, allowing the opinions and emotions of others to influence their own state of mind. They consume news designed to provoke anxiety, anger, and helplessness. They gossip about people they don't even know, wasting precious mental resources on meaningless speculation. By the time they arrive at work or begin their important tasks, their minds are already scattered, reactive, and emotionally compromised. They've given away their most valuable asset, their focused attention, before they've even begun to pursue their own goals. The Machiavellian mind operates differently. It guards its attention jealously, allowing only carefully selected inputs that serve a strategic purpose. It doesn't react to every stimulus because it understands that reaction is often exactly what others want to provoke. It maintains internal equilibrium regardless of external chaos because it has learned that emotional stability is a competitive advantage. This transformation doesn't happen by accident. It requires deliberate cultivation through specific practices and disciplines. First, ruthless self-scrutiny. You do not lie to yourself. Weak men comfort themselves. You interrogate yourself. Every belief, do I actually own this, or did I inherit it? Every emotion, what purpose does this serve? You chase no comfort. You want clarity. The world is built to distract you. You build quiet fortresses, silent mornings, deliberate reading, time alone, daily audits. If an idea doesn't serve your strategy, it dies. This self-scrutiny must be merciless, because self-deception is the foundation of all other forms of weakness. The person who cannot see themselves clearly cannot see anything clearly. The individual who makes excuses for their failures will never learn from them. The mind that avoids uncomfortable truths will remain vulnerable to those truths indefinitely. Most people conduct this self-examination, if they conduct it at all, in the most gentle and forgiving way possible. They rationalize their mistakes, minimize their weaknesses, and exaggerate their strengths. They seek therapy that makes them feel better, rather than analysis that makes them more effective. They want validation, not transformation. But validation is a drug that weakens while it soothes. Every time you accept a comfortable lie about yourself, you become less capable of handling uncomfortable realities about the world. Every excuse you make for your limitations becomes a reason to avoid pushing past those limitations. The daily audit Machiavelli would recognize involves asking uncomfortable questions and demanding honest answers. What did I avoid today because I was afraid? What decision did I postpone because I wanted to be liked? What opportunity did I miss because I was too comfortable? What advantage did I give away because I was too proud to acknowledge my ignorance? These questions hurt because they reveal the gap between who you think you are and who you actually are. But this pain is productive pain, the kind that builds strength rather than simply providing comfort. Second, radical emotional detachment. Most people are at the mercy of inner weather. Insults, praise, threats, setbacks. Each one sways their spirit. You decide, now, to let no external event dictate your internal state. Composure is not indifference, it is chosen focus. People worry what others think. Your attention is on what you want them to do. Others obsess over rumors. You track incentives and angles, never noise. In every storm, you remain cold, invulnerable. This emotional detachment is perhaps the most difficult skill to develop because it goes against fundamental human nature. We are social creatures programmed to care deeply about what others think of us, to react emotionally to perceived threats and opportunities, to have our mood influenced by the mood of those around us. But this programming, while useful in small tribal settings, becomes a catastrophic vulnerability in larger, more complex social environments. The person whose emotional state can be manipulated by others is essentially remote controlled. They can be made angry, sad, happy, or afraid by anyone clever enough to push the right buttons. Emotional detachment doesn't mean becoming emotionless or uncaring. It means developing the ability to choose your emotional responses based on what serves your purposes rather than what feels natural in the moment. It means understanding that your emotions are information, not commands. When someone insults you, the immediate emotional response is anger or hurt. These emotions provide information. This person is either trying to provoke you, expressing their own frustration, or testing your composure. But the emotions themselves are not instructions for how to respond. The strategically minded person uses this information to decide on the most effective response, which might be a devastating counterattack, complete indifference, or even apparent agreement that serves a larger purpose. The key is that you decide, not your emotions. Your emotions inform, but your strategic judgment commands. Third, master the art of unpredictability. The predictable mind is prey, easy to manipulate, easy to anticipate. You cultivate strategic ambiguity, change routines, answer questions with questions, hide motives behind acts of generosity or silence, be so impossible to read that others waste energy guessing your position while you quietly build leverage. Predictability is comfortable for everyone except the predictable person. When others know exactly how you'll react to any given stimulus, they can control you simply by creating the appropriate stimulus. When they know your weaknesses, they can exploit them. When they know your desires, they can dangle them like bait. Strategic unpredictability disrupts these patterns of manipulation. It forces others to spend mental energy trying to understand you, rather than using that energy to maneuver against you. It creates a psychological advantage where you understand them better than they understand you. This doesn't mean being random or chaotic. Chaos is just another form of predictability because it's predictably chaotic. Strategic unpredictability means having multiple options available and choosing between them based on criteria that others don't fully understand. Sometimes you respond to provocation with aggression, sometimes with humor, sometimes with complete indifference. Sometimes you're generous, sometimes ruthlessly transactional. Sometimes you're available and social, sometimes mysteriously absent. The pattern, if there is one, serves your strategic purposes rather than your emotional comfort or others' expectations. Fourth, information control. Power is not in knowing everything, but in knowing what to ignore. You separate vital signals from irrelevant noise, study only what moves the levers, gossip, headlines, opinion. These are static, designed to capture the weak. You consume data, wisdom, and results. Every minute you spend arguing with fools is a minute given to your rivals. In the modern information environment, the ability to filter signal from noise has become a critical survival skill. We are bombarded with more information in a single day than our ancestors processed in months. Most of this information is not just useless, it's actively harmful because it fragments attention and distorts priorities. The disciplined mind develops strict criteria for what deserves attention. Information that helps you understand important trends. Information that reveals opportunities. Information that exposes threats. Information that builds useful skills. These deserve careful consideration. Everything else is distraction. This means ruthlessly cutting out most news consumption, social media browsing, and casual conversation about current events. It means being selective about books, podcasts, and articles. It means ending relationships with people who consistently waste your time with trivial concerns. The goal is not to become ignorant, but to become selectively informed. You want to know everything that matters and nothing that doesn't. This requires the discipline to say no to interesting but irrelevant information and the judgment to distinguish between what's important and what merely seems urgent. Fifth, practice, daily, the discipline of, on pain of death, focus. When you work, you are unfindable. When you rest, you truly rest. When you confront, it is with timing so perfect. Targets wonder if you anticipated their moves days in advance. Attention is your weapon. The tighter you wield it, the sharper your edge. Focused attention has become the scarcest and most valuable resource in the modern economy. While others scatter their attention across dozens of apps, notifications, and trivial concerns, the person who can maintain laser focus on important tasks has an almost supernatural advantage. This focus must be protected like a fortress under siege. Every distraction is an enemy assault. Every notification is the attempt at infiltration. Every impulse to check social media or respond to non-urgent communication is a moment of weakness that, if indulged, makes the fortress a little less secure. The practice of focused attention requires both discipline and strategy. Discipline to resist distractions. Strategy to structure your environment and schedule to minimize the need for constant resistance. This means creating physical spaces dedicated to focused work, establishing time blocks for different types of activities, and developing systems that handle routine tasks automatically. When you achieve this level of focus, your output quality increases dramatically, but more importantly, your ability to see patterns and opportunities that others miss becomes almost clairvoyant. You notice details that scattered minds overlook. You anticipate problems before they become crises. You identify solutions that seem obvious in retrospect, but were invisible to less focused observers. Why does this mind terrify? Because it cannot be rattled, cannot be distracted, cannot be guilted or manipulated. Weak minds depend on permission, applause, and reassurance. Strong minds are defined by self-instruction. You do what needs to be done, not what you are told is acceptable. This doesn't make you cruel, it makes you inevitable. The terror this mind inspires is not the fear of physical violence, but the fear of encountering someone who operates by completely different rules. Most people can understand and predict other people because they share the same weaknesses, the same need for approval, the same emotional volatility, the same scattered attention. But when they encounter someone who doesn't share these weaknesses, their normal social strategies become useless. They can't manipulate someone who doesn't seek their approval. They can't distract someone who controls their own attention. They can't provoke someone who chooses their emotional responses strategically. This creates a profound psychological discomfort. It's like trying to play chess against someone who's playing a completely different game with different rules. Their moves don't make sense until it's too late to counter them. Their silence feels ominous because it usually precedes precisely calculated action. Machiavelli warned, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. You let others see the mask, but never the machinery. You reveal nothing unless it serves your strategy. You don't shrink for comfort, nor explain for acceptance. Clarity, distance, and poise become your shield and sword." This principle of strategic opacity is crucial because information asymmetry creates power asymmetry. When others know more about you than you know about them, they have the advantage. When you understand their motivations, weaknesses, and patterns while they remain confused about yours, you have the advantage. Most people reveal far too much about themselves because they mistake openness for connection and transparency for trust. They share their fears, their plans, their resources, and their limitations with people who haven't earned that information and may not have their best interests at heart. The strategic mind reveals information selectively and purposefully. Sometimes revelation serves to build genuine trust with valuable allies. Sometimes it serves to mislead enemies about your true capabilities or intentions. Sometimes it serves to test others' reactions and gather information about their character. But casual, thoughtless revelation serves no strategic purpose and creates unnecessary vulnerability. The person who tells everyone their business has no secrets, and the person with no secrets has no mystery, and the person with no mystery has no power. Integration begins with 2 daily rituals. In the morning, a tactical audit. What lies does the world want you to believe today? You spot them and reject them. At night, a failure analysis. What moments did you let emotion lead or waste attention? You take note. You correct. Over time, this self-surveillance forges mental steel. These rituals create a feedback loop of continuous improvement that compounds over time. The morning audit develops your ability to recognize manipulation and deception before it affects your thinking. The evening analysis develops your ability to learn from mistakes without being paralyzed by them. The morning audit might reveal attempts to manipulate your emotions through news designed to provoke outrage, social media designed to create envy, or advertising designed to manufacture desire for things you don't actually want. By recognizing these attempts early, you can choose not to engage with them at all. The evening analysis might reveal moments when you reacted emotionally instead of responding strategically, when you wasted time on trivial concerns instead of focusing on important goals, or when you revealed information unnecessarily instead of maintaining strategic opacity. This process of continuous self-monitoring and correction creates rapid improvement because it prevents the same mistakes from being repeated indefinitely. Most people make the same errors over and over because they never examine their failures systematically. People will speculate. Some will gossip. Some will steer clear. Many will envy. Let them. Their reaction is proof that your mind sits at a higher elevation. The price of being legendary is being feared by the fragile. This social cost is real and must be acknowledged honestly. As you develop greater internal strength and strategic capability, you will necessarily become more threatening to those who remain weak and scattered. They will respond with gossip, criticism, social pressure, and attempts to drag you back down to their level. This response is predictable and should be expected rather than feared. It's actually a useful indicator that your transformation is working. When weak people become uncomfortable around you, it means you're developing the kind of strength that makes weakness obsolete. The key is to neither seek this reaction nor be deterred by it. You're not trying to make others uncomfortable. You're trying to become more effective. Their discomfort is a side effect, not the goal. But when it appears, it can serve as confirmation that you're moving in the right direction. You're not here to be liked. You're here to carve out unshakable advantage, to build the mind that terrifies others because it does not waver, does not reveal, does not yield. The world serves the strongest centered will, not the one who pleads for calm, but the one who commands the storm with silence. This clarity about purpose is essential because the path to genuine strength requires sacrificing the comfortable illusions that keep most people weak. You cannot simultaneously be liked by everyone and respected by anyone. You cannot be both agreeable and formidable. You cannot be both transparent and mysterious. The choice is yours, but the choice is real. Most people never make this choice consciously. So they end up with neither the comfort of being universally liked, nor the power of being genuinely respected. They exist in a middle ground of mediocrity, where they're not threatening enough to be feared or weak enough to be pitied. Transformation does not wait for signs or consensus. It begins now. At the moment you stop negotiating with your own excuses. Make your mind your fortress, your rituals your infantry, and your focus your flag. Let lesser souls find comfort. You will build the mind the world cannot move. The rest will fall in line or out of your way. That's how history is made.